Hello, everybody. It's Romania Black, and it has been a while since I've gotten to watch the Apothecary Diaries. I know I've kept the channel up to date, but I've had to wait like a solid 2 weeks? 2 weeks before watching this episode? That's not fair. So we're on episode 23, which is the penultimate episode of the season. And before people ask, I want to go ahead and say my plan. I know that there's a chibi series that has been going on simultaneously with this season, like there was with season 1. My plan is to watch all of the chibis. Last time, someone compiled them all together on YouTube into one segment that was very convenient to react to. And so that's my thoughts for this. I'm going to wait until they compile the season 2 chibis together into a montage, and then I'm going to react to said montage in its own video. My plan was to, because as I'm reacting to this episode, I only have comments leading up to episode 22 on Patreon. So my plan is that after this season is done, I'll wait until I have all the comments for episodes 23 and 24 from both Patreon and YouTube. And if any stand out, then I'll be able to talk about them in the video with the shorts, like I did with season 1. So that's the plan anyway. So I don't know if the shorts video will come out in July or if it will come out in August. I'm assuming it just depends on how long it takes to compile all that together. Someone on YouTube will do it, whether it's the official studio or not. We've just got to be patient. So we're going to wait on that. But I feel like this is, the end of June, beginning of July. But you know what? The official account for the Apothecary Diaries, they didn't forget that it was the month of June, because look at all these bisexual hydrangeas. Like I said, if you've watched Buddy Daddies that I've reacted to, the hydrangeas are forever bisexual to me now. And look at Mau Mau's bisexual awakening. I love the person that said, I think I'm going to get to it in the comments, but her biromantic asexual awakening, because I do think Mau Mau is asexual. As someone on the ace spectrum, I believe that she's one of us. She is ace herself, but I'm a romantic asexual. I'm just attracted to men, whereas I believe Mau Mau has had a biromantic awakening. And these hydrangeas are indicative of it, and poor Jinshi's back there being like, oh, we like slugs now, huh? What about frogs? So poor Jinshi, he doesn't have a prayer. I'm wearing a t-shirt that I got from the mods for one of the other shows I'm watching on the channel. This couple I have high hopes for. I also have high hopes for Jinshi and Mau Mau. We'll see where that goes with these next 2 episodes, but I just felt like that was, needed to share that. So we've got a lot of comments to go through that detail episodes 19 through 22. Since I've, not been able to watch, I've been reading comments. So we need to dive into those and talk about them before we get started with the episode. So this might be a long introduction. 3 a.m. Owl for episode 19 says, as part of Jinshi and Shisui being similar, they've both had people dress up and pose as them. Then, of course, there's their relationship with Mau Mau. They both have given her a hairpin. Both have gone to a festival and market and bought chicken and locust skewers with her, which I was like, oh my God, yes, that's so true. And Mau Mau has had, Mau Mau has 2 hands. And if the Emperor can have multiple partners, I think Mau Mau should as well. Look, I'm fully on board with you. I like Mau Mau and Shisui as a pairing. The only thing is, Jinshi's not one to share. Jinshi would have a problem with it. Jinshi, it seems like he's like the pebble and the penguin. Jinshi has the little pebble and he's like, do you want to be my mate for life? And Mau Mau's like, it's a pretty good rock. So I think Jinshi would have a problem with it more so than Mau Mau would. Mau Mau would just be like, 2 more hands to help out in the apothecary shop. But I'm glad you pointed out all those similarities. Sarah, CE5WR for episode 20, says Lolan and Shisui are both voiced by Asami Seto, who is none other than Chiaya from Chiaya Furu. And I was like, and she mentioned a bunch of other characters that Asami voices, but I was like, Lolan is Chiaya's voice actress? What? Also, I'm glad I wasn't told. I don't remember anyone telling me that both were voiced by the same person, because that would have gave it away. But yeah, that's just, that's so good. So good. So yeah, I love Chiaya Furu so much. So that makes me very happy that her voice actress is still getting work even now. That's really good. And she's been in a lot of other things too, so that's good to know. Floyd Morgan 6048 for episode 20 says it looks like when all is said and done that the only thing preventing the Lolan faction from aligning with the Jinshi faction was pride. Loman came in and cut off that pride. He might have well just changed the whole kingdom with a few soft words. Oh, Floyd, speaking to my own heart. After reading The Last Eunuch in China for season 1, the idea that this eunuch Loman could have altered the entire course of an entire kingdom not only fits with the motif of actual history, but also just love, love, love. Just Loman deserves all the praise. He really does. Algu Malguum for episode 20 had a big, long comment about the Shi Clan, which seems fitting to go over now because we pretty much pinned them against a wall. Stuff's gonna have to go down these next 2 episodes concerning Shisho and Shin and our dear Shinmei and Lolan and everybody. It's all going down, so we might as well talk about this. In the anime, this scene in episode 20, in a way, condensed 2 versions of events from 3 sources. In the light novel, only Lolan, we're going to talk about this first. In the light novel, only Lolan kneeled. And in the Neko Kurage illustrated manga, which is the one the anime mostly takes after visually and art style-wise, that's the same. But in the Kurata illustrated manga, I didn't realize there was 2 manga for this series. That's complicated. Not for me, but that's interesting. All 3 of the lawmen kneeled down. Loman didn't do it in the original because of his missing kneecap. The anime combined these versions by having Lolan and Lahan kneel down, but Loman's still standing because of the knee. Interesting. All right, there's also a quote-unquote very long yap session about the Shi name with influences and connections. People who know better Chinese culture, please do fact-check me where necessary. My knowledge is limited to stuff I learned from when Jackie Chan Adventures was airing. The fact that we are using Jackie Chan Adventures as a source of information on the Shi Clan gives me such joy. Because I do remember the Jackie Chan Adventures. Not that specific part of it, but I do remember those happening when I was growing up. So I'm glad that I got a good nostalgic kick from that. The clan's Shi name refers to the rat, or the first sign of the Chinese zodiac, where the signs change with the lunar year instead of the months. Knowing someone's Chinese zodiac can often narrow down a person's age, birth year, since a 12-year difference is easier to notice. I'm Year of the Dragon, hashtag Dragons Rule. When combined with the 5 phases of Wuxing, often simplified to the various 5 elements of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Earth, fire, wind, water, heart, go! Chinese zodiac. That extends to 60 years before the same sign phase matches again. Astrology is often complicated, right? There are different myths on how the animals were chosen. Mostly they were picked by the Jade Emperor, sometimes by Buddha. Now, I have read the manga for Fruits Basket, so I know quite a bit about the Chinese zodiac just based on the order from that time and place. So a lot of this was giving me Fruits Basket flashbacks. I haven't seen the new anime, but I did read the manga like 20 years ago, so I kind of remembered some of this. And I do remember the rat managed to finish first place because it rode on its friend the ox and jumped ahead to the finish line. Remember that. The Ma in Basin and Gao Shun's clan similarly refers to the horse, or the 7th sign of the Chinese zodiac. Oh, don't you believe? You best be believing that Gao Shun's representing the horse. And I'm not just talking about his work ethic. That was not part of their comment. I'm feeling good today, y'all. I just had to get that in. Anyway, the Ba in Basin's name is the same character used for the Ma clan name, different pronunciation. As far back as the last episodes, I'm so proud of myself. And the horse reference with Gao Shun, you all know what I'm talking about! So, Basin already dislikes Shisho. I need to calm down, y'all. Need to calm down. Basin already disliked Shisho and Lolan, thinking of them as schemers. Gao Shun also had a low opinion during the hunt, though with more of a poker face. I find this fitting because the rat and the horse signs have poor compatibility. That's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Gao Shun and horses, just go look up the euphemisms. Y'all know. Good times. Anyway, Algum continues. I'm skewing their comment with my vulgarity, saying we can also draw a connection to Mau Mau. In some versions, there's extra information showing that the cat does not become a zodiac sign because it was sabotaged by the rat during the race. Again, remember that from Fruits Baskets. No spoilers to Fruits Baskets, but I remember that. And the cat motif and the rat motif fit really well with Lolan as well as with Mau Mau. So that's great. Thus, the antipathy of cats hunting rats. In others, instead of a race, the rat causes the cat to miss the emperor's banquet. In the Vietnamese zodiac, there's actually a cat instead of a rabbit. Before arriving at the fox village, Sui told Lolan that using Shisui was way too obvious a name, which she dismissed as none of the servants noticing, since most are illiterate, and that also they wouldn't know of the nobility's privileged character use. I would have to double check, but when Haku mentioned the name Shisui when examining Mau Mau's note, though Jinshi focused on connecting the Sui to Sui, I believe some of the flashing images were to the other Shi Clan connections. Jinshi would consider the privileged character connection as his own royal name features one, which would make sense, even if he didn't know how Shisui's name is written. This also most definitely primed him to make the Shi Clan connection after visiting Taiho's grave. Last, we have the recent knowledge of Sui using rats as test subjects. There was a typo there. For her drug experiments. So the rat connection, all this. This show is so good because it makes all these connections. It's just so good. It's so damn good. I love it so much. Anyway, thank you, Algamalgam, for that lesson. We appreciate it. Sorry for my vulgarity, but Gaoshin's hung like a horse. There. Done. Got it. Gotta get it out. So, Vero Chan with 8046 says for episode 21, I'm wondering if Sui snake phobia implies that she was tortured in the Taibon in the past, and that's the reason she developed the fear. That very well could be. I think so. I think that Sui was definitely put in Taibon and developed a snake fear from that, and Sui got her out of, or Shisui got her out of it. I totally think that that's the case. I'm going with that headcanon too, Vero Chan. I think we're onto something. Icy for episode 21 says, you know what I find hilarious is how many fans Shinmei has. And whenever I first read this, I thought by fans, Icy was talking about people that like her, and I was like, oh, I like her as a villain. She's really threatening and menacing. But then Icy said, she keeps breaking fans over people's heads. And I was like, ha ha ha, that's great. I thought she broke one over Mau Mau's head before she swiftly turned around and broke one over Suire's. I would almost accept that as just being an inside joke that Shinmei just has 100 fans and she just keeps pulling them out of nowhere and these guys are like just distributing them back and forth to her. Would accept that as like a vaudeville comedy sketch. Would. Then Icy says, someone on Twitter said that Jinshi's armor, I can't unsee this now, looks like Emperor Zurg from Toy Story, but I still think he looks cool, especially with his hair up. Yes, Jinshi looks amazing with his hair up. He's definitely fit for a ponytail. Good for him. Also, I also see the Emperor Zurg. I think it's the purple. I think it's the color of the armor, but it fits him. It still looks badass, but someone shared that in the Discord, a picture of it. I was like, yeah, I can't unsee it now, but it's fine. It's fine. It could be a worse connection. Anime Annie finally rounds out our comments with comments for episodes 21 and 22. For episode 21, Anime Annie says, Mau Mau thinking she should stay out of it just before she draws Lady Shinmei's ire reminds me a lot of the end of season 1, episode 1, when the narrator talks about Mau Mau saying, there are some things Mau Mau cannot hold back. Curiosity, a thirst for knowledge, and just a smidgen of justice. And I was like, yeah! I think the confusion for the bit about the Dr. Taiho and Taiho's daughter leaving the Rare Palace is also just a translation error. I think it should be, and then the doctor and Taiho's daughter were expelled or banished from the Rare Palace. Thank you! There have been so many people be like, am I wrong? Did I hear wrong? Well, it's just a translation error. I think Taiho stayed back, died in the Rare Palace. That's why she has a grave, and the doctor left with Taiho's daughter. And streaming services, I know that you guys are translating a lot. Just double check that. Double check that. English teacher to you. Just speaking as an English teacher. Just proofread that one time. But I get it. That's an easy mistake to make. And then Anime Annie says for episode 22, we have briefly seen the character that speaks to Locken and Lahan before. Everybody's been trying to say we've seen this character before. And I was like, I don't want to know who they are. I want the show to tell me. But Anime Annie pointed out that back in season 1, episode 14, there was the explosion in the warehouse. And he was the person that was calling for Locken. He's voiced by my beloved Uchiyama Koki, or Tsukishima's voice actor. And I was like, oh, which is weird because he does not look like the type of character that Tsukishima's voice actor that Uchiyama voices. I was like, he doesn't really look like an Uchiyama character. Uchiyama has also voiced Rei from Buddy Daddies, which I was like, oh my god, means that with his character and Lahan, we both have Rei and Kazuki from Buddy Daddies. Does that make me automatically want to ship Lahan and this guy? 1000%, even though Lahan's like, I'm not into guys. I'm like, so yeah, no, it's already done. Done shipping them. It's a crack ship already, and he's in Lakan's camp, so it's already done. Already shipping them. End of story. Pretty boy, math head, done. Ship it. Shindo from Kaze Suyo, Kirishima from Free, Inumaki from Jujutsu Kaisen, Benedict from Violet Evergarden, Ome from Daya. He's also Yurio's Seiyu in the Japanese dub of Yuri on Ice. So you can kind of sell with some of those characters, not all of them, but with some of them there's kind of like a tsundere, snarky disposition with some of those characters. I do not get that impression from him from these scenes at all, that he is snarky or Tsukishima-like at all. So I'm going to be really excited to see if he is, which Inumaki in Jujutsu Kaisen is not snarky. So like I said, you know, he's not a typecast character, but some of his more popular characters are known for like a snarkier kind of apathetic demeanor. I don't get this from that guy at all. So we're going to see where that goes. They also say it's really intriguing getting Shisho's point of view, especially as it's quite similar to when we got Locken thinking back on his past in season 1. But with Lock-On, learning more about him made us more sympathetic and understanding of his character. With Shisho, however, there is some understanding for how things came to be, but it is definitely hard to feel sympathy for him when he admits to not being present or aware of the true extent of Shinmei's abuse towards Suirei. Yeah, Lock-In, you can say whatever you want about him. You can like him or dislike him, or feel both about him, but there is one thing that's for sure that Lock-In has proven this season. He would never let Mao Mao get abused and let you get away with it. He'd be right on there. And Shisho, he lost so much respect for me last episode when he was just like, I didn't know that Shinmei was abusing Suirei. I'm like, you ain't got eyes? What is this? Anybody with 2 sets of eyes that's in a room with her for over 5 minutes could see that she's abusing Suirei, and you didn't know? Really, sir? I was like, nah. Not having him at all. So I was like, you're not the daddy that Lock-In is, you tanuki. So anyway, I'm on fire, y'all, this episode. Algum's comment has got me fired up, and I am ready to get into this penultimate episode, y'all. Oh, yes, friends, I am excited. We're not going to waste any more time. We've spent too much talking about these amazing comments, but thank you all so much for them. I have appreciated them so much. We're going to dive in to episode 23 of Apothecary Diaries. Finally, bitches! And we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's jam. Oh my gosh. I have a lot of thoughts about this episode. The good, the bad, and the ugly. There's not a lot of ugly in this episode, but there are some moments I'm gonna point out that I was thinking of during the ED that I was like, but now that you mention it, so we're going to talk about it. We're going to get right into this. Oh, the cinema of this episode. The cinema of this episode was so peak. It was so good. There are a couple things that were jogging through my head throughout the ending of it that I was like, but is this going to detract from this episode, the things that I'm thinking of? Is it going to detract from the overall situation of the episode? I don't know. I have theories about when people make decisions like this, and we just might as well get into it. So I'm going to try to stay chronological and just talk about it as we go. So I have thoughts about the hairpin, about Lolan, about Suirei, about all of this. I have thoughts, but we're going to get into them with this episode of how people could be spared and all of this. So we'll see about that. I hesitate to talk about it because I'm going to say, the only thing I will say about the comments is that there were so many people that were trying to argue with me about why the children had to die. And now I'm looking at this going, but are they dead? Are they? And I'm just like, I want to hear no comments about it. So we'll just dive into this episode. So Boston being in charge of the Vanguard with Jinshi, I feel a little bit bad for Boston. Even though Boston did shoot at Lolan he had to, because she scarred the crown prince. She physically harmed the crown prince. And she knew that was the repercussion of that happening. So she knew the moment that it was spotted that she had scarred him, her life was forfeit on top of everything else. It's funny that it's Boston that does it, and not funny haha, but funny in the irony of us just talking in the intro about how the Ma clan and her clan are zodiac incompatible. So it's the horse shooting at the rat, which is kind of funny in the long run, if you tie that all back around. But yeah, so I mean, the guns are interesting to be introduced into this, especially because we've seen how the guns have been introduced, that they don't have the match anymore, and Shisho comes out with one. I mean, Shisho's life was forfeit the moment he shot at the prince. The moment he shot at the prince, he was obviously being put under arrest, which he knew that getting put under arrest meant he was going to be executed. He knew it was just like a formality, but that was going to be the end result. So he's like, well, I'll take down the prince while I'm at it before y'all go through with that. It just, good job with your sword practice, Jinshi. Good job with your sword practicing at the last minute, because you were able to deflect a literal bullet. Superhero Jinshi to the rescue. But yeah, so they talk about you're under arrest for embezzlement and rebellion. And he's like, well, the emperor made his order since the royal guard is here. So I honestly wondered if he was going to shoot himself, but no, he tried to assassinate the crown prince, or not the crown prince, but he doesn't know that at the time. And the one guy gets the bullet deflected. I like that he kind of chides all of them, being like, you were so eager to test these FIFAs, and now we have the latest model that can be fired without a match. And he's like, well, yeah, I was attacked by one by your goons. Now that all adds up. If only I'd successfully killed you then. It would have been a much different story had that have happened, I'll tell you that now. If only I'd had a bit more time. But maybe it wouldn't have helped at all. The theatrics of this damn family is like, they have a shelf of Tonys at home. The theatricalities of Shinmei, of Shisho, of Shisui, aka Lolan, like the theatricality of it all. Suirei didn't inherit any of that, as it were, but they sure all did. Man, I kept wondering if maybe he was trying to be theatrical about it to maybe give more time for Shinmei and them to escape, but they weren't trying to escape, so that clearly wasn't it. Or maybe he thought they were, but I wondered if he'd prepared this from the moment that he knew things were going down, that he wanted to be remembered for these certain words that he said. But I mean, the only person that hears it is Jinshi and them, and they're not going to repeat it. But man, and then they all rammed through him. I mean, he did try to assassinate Jinshi, so that was going to happen. But man, the sad part is Shinmei was really pretty. She was beautiful. She was like Kennedy Davenport from Drag Race. Beautiful. She was so pretty. But man, her insides did not match her outsides. She was gorgeous, but she was so vain and trite. And he was actually, Shisho was not a bad looking guy back in the day. It feels like watching a play staged by an actor. The emperor's closest retainer since the last emperor's era. Abrupt, disappointing. Either could describe his final moment. So meanwhile, the people that... My thing is, I don't know, because obviously the guards that are with Shisho, they're going to die. They were rebelling. They were treason. So they're going to die. That's going to happen. The people that are associated with the whores, like Kyo's mom and everybody, are they going to die? Or are they part of Lolan's wish to Jinshi that he spare them because they've already died of shame once? They've already died of losing their dignity. So are they going to be spared? It occurred to me when she was talking about doing, like, sparing the people that have already died once. When she was saying that, I was like, she's talking about Suirei, because technically Suirei has died once, not only from the abuse that she had at the hand of Shinmei, and also being disowned from her family pretty much and being a servant, but she's literally died once through the resurrection medicine. And then when we saw Boston and them with these people, in my head I was going, Is it possible that what Lolan gave the children was the resurrection medicine instead of a poison? Is that a possibility? And what made me think that even more was the very end of this episode. I was like, oh, Mau Mau's still with the kids. They ain't been buried yet. Lihaku hasn't gotten to that yet, which makes sense. They're still in the middle of the battle. Why would Lihaku get to that yet? But then I was like, is all this just been bullshit and them kids are okay? And them kids are going to be fine. I mean, they might suffer some neurological trauma and be like scarred up and like disemboweled and poisoned from within, and might be, you know, for the rest of their life in a bad situation because of drinking the medicine. But I guess it's better than death. You know, is that going to be the case? Because look, I'm all happy about the kids being alive. I like Kyo. I'm happy about him being alive. But this is my controversial yet brave take on this. If you're going to kill the children and make a bold, dark, dramatic statement, don't bring them back. You know, I mean, just to be like, oh, they weren't really dead. Oh, happy endings. I'm like, if you're going to make a bold statement and make this series be dark as F, then don't bring them back. Because it's like, they're from a disgraced clan now. Sure, they're going to live, but what, are they going to go work in the rear palace? Are they going to go be in poverty somewhere since they can't be part of the Shi Clan anymore, since that clan's been demolished? Like, is that a life worth living? I mean, they were going to have to escape and go somewhere else, so it would be pretty much the same thing, but I'm like, I don't know. On the one hand, I'm like, oh, it feels like a very clever, like, well, actually, Lolan did the right thing by giving them the resurrection medicine that's going to bring them back to life, and we're going to have happy days and sunshine and rainbows. But then it kind of takes away from Lolan being a badass, poisonous empress, the evil of a generation. It kind of takes away from that a little bit, right? And it just kind of takes away from the impact of the moment, right? It just feels a little cheap to me. If that's what happens, but maybe not. Maybe they are dead. Maybe they are dead. They're wrapped up. Maybe they are dead. Maybe she didn't give them the resurrection medicine. Don't know. But if they do end up living, and then you have them with possible, like we talked about from Suirei's perspective, that the resurrection medicine can cause like neuro damage to you for the rest of your life and disable you. And so it's like, are those kids gonna have a great life when they come back and they're part of a disgraced clan and their parents probably feel like shit? And so if they end up living, and if they don't end up living, are they gonna be orphans? There's a lot of stuff to think about with that episode and with that part. So I don't know. It just hit me when we saw the bodies and she said the ones that have already died once. I'm like, does that mean that they didn't die? And I'm not condoning child murder at all, but if you make a bold decision to make a character have a character moment, and then you undo all of that, and it's supposed to be like, but she was actually good all along. I'm like, this ain't Wicked. This ain't Wicked. Lolan ain't Elphaba. So I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like it cheapens it a little bit. I feel like stuff like that cheapens it a little bit, but we're going to talk more about that at the end of this episode, but I don't know. So anyway, Boston's sent to handle all the people there, and they go back in there, and he goes through the secret passage, which is kind of like, what's funny is there's the secret passage through the wardrobe and everything, which was giving me Narnia vibes, but it also adds to the Cinderella factor of Suirei, that she was like literally climbing through the chimney. So it's kind of like, you know, what do we do? But then Lolan could have killed Jinshi. She could have killed him in that moment with the FIFA. She could have been like, hi, you're dead. But she'd made it to where it was going to backfire. She'd already put the pin in where it was going to backfire and blow up. And so it was really just a front. And I do think that there's a chance Jinshi noticed that, because he came very quietly with her, and he could have easily been like, that's fake or whatever. But I think Jinshi's curiosity, you know, curiosity killed the cat, but Jinshi's not a cat. So Jinshi's curiosity was to say like, okay, well, I'm going to follow you and let you tell me what's going on, because I'm curious. I want to know, and I want to see like where this leads, because he could very well have taken the gun from her at any time. And so I love that she points the gun. She goes, greeting, Moon Prince. She didn't say Kasuigetsu, though. She called him, like, I heard her say Suki, so that's like Moon. So I heard her say that. She's like, greetings, Moon Prince, but let me call you Master Jinshi for convenience. Because now he knows that she's actually Shisui, the maid, and everything. So, She was a brand of poison that was right up Mau Mau's alley. She was a poison that Mau Mau loves poisons, and she was a level of it. It's so funny now that you say that. That's after what Sarah said in the intro about her being played by Chihaya's voice actress from Chihaya Furu, because I'm watching that series at the same time. I can hear it now. Before, it's one of those things like, until someone says it, you don't really see it or hear it, but once you know, you're like, oh, yeah. And what's so funny about it is that she was very, like, falsely sweet in this episode. She was very falsely, like, sickly sweet in how she was talking, like poisoned honey, which just adds to the poisoned atmosphere of her character, which I love. But you could hear that in that sweetness, I could hear Chihaya, and I was like, oh, so if Chihaya was a villain, this is what this would sound like. Cool. Awesome. Good to know that the range is there. Good to know that that possibility is there. But she's like, are you actually going to obediently follow? And he's like, well, you're the one that demanded it. She's like, well, it would be easy for you to get this away from me. And he's like, yeah, but I want to hear, like, what your deal is. I think Jinshi knew at any time he could get that away from her, but he's like, you and I both know I'm following you out of curiosity, and I want to see where this goes, and I want to see what you're leading me to. And then we get to Shinmei and Suirei. So yeah, and Jinshi's like, damn, she was a lot more imposing and intimidating in season 1. But I liked someone's comment where they said that Suirei was a much more interesting character in this season, and I agree 100%, because she was a very Moriarty rival-esque villainous character in season 1 that had all this mystery surrounding her. But I kind of like that it's kind of subverts your expectations, and you're like, oh wait, no, she's actually just an abused daughter who's actually the granddaughter of the original emperor and is Jinshi's cousin. And so that part's interesting to me. Now, she knows, Suirei knows, that she is Jinshi's cousin and that she's the daughter of the OG emperor. She knows that. They establish it in this episode if she didn't. And so I'm going to be curious to see, like, what is our final round of what to do with her? Because she said to spare her. So, like, but they can't just send Suirei to work in the rear palace. That ain't going to work. So are they going to, like, tell her to get out of the country? Are they going to, like, banish her from the country and say, all right, you got to go. You and all the others from the Shi Clan, you guys got to leave. Bye. And then send them away? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I honestly was afraid when she ran after Lolan in the end of this episode. I was afraid she was going to get shot. I thought for a hot second that they were going to shoot her when she was reaching out to grab Lolan. I thought they were going to shoot her, and I was like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I thought she was a bold and daring woman, but no. It's so funny that he says that about her, because the reality is the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because Shizui seemed like a bold and threatening person. But the reality is she actually takes quite a bit from her grandfather in that she's actually kind of scared and easily, like, timid. So that's interesting, right? So then the whole thing, Shinmei recognizes Jinshi because he looks like his grandfather. He arguably looks like his mother entirely, but he does resemble his grandfather a lot. And she's like, you always hated him, haven't you? The person who looked just like that man. So I brought him to you. And Jinshi's like, why is everybody getting all up on me being like my grandfather? Were you perhaps jealous that he was much more beautiful than you? I mean, that's a possibility. Or they chose the lady in waiting much younger than you. Lolan held nothing back in this. She held nothing back. And I might as well say it. Did she die? Or did she not? We'll talk about it when we get closer. I mean, she had the hairpin tucked away. The shot her right there. There wasn't technically any blood, just fabric. But my argument to that is, one, we didn't see the bullet ricochet. Like, the bullet ricocheted when Jinshi's sword caught it, and the bullet ricocheted and hit someone else. So we didn't see the bullet ricochet and hit anybody else from inside of her. Two, can a hairpin actually repel a bullet? That's getting a little into kooky territory. Getting a little into a blade? Yeah, a blade forged as thick it is. Sure. A hairpin? That's not like a Bible blocking a bullet, you know? Is that thick enough? And her falling from the Stronghold Tower and girl didn't die from falling off that tower. Then bushes break her fall. And I guess my final thing is, before we get into the dance and all of that, everything I'm about to talk about with Lolan set up her death to be this event, to be this beautiful, event. Like, she was the evil of a generation, the witch who wanted love, right? And because that's really what she is. She ends up, I'm sure history books will paint her as a witch. And it kind of goes back to the story that she tells about the woman and trying to eat the man and the bugs and all of that. That woman was like a witch. And that's kind of how Lolan presents herself. But the reality is she just wanted somebody to love her. And in the end, Mau Mau was really one of the few people other than Suirei that loved her. So it's like, And, you know, would it be somewhat poetic if she ended up saving the children in her final moments? Yeah, it would be. It takes away from the darkness of that moment entirely. But sure, it would be poetically beautiful of her final moments. But then, if she lives, it just takes away from everything. If she ends up living after this, if that hairpin, it's like, it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. Because on the one hand, would it be poetically beautiful that she was labeled as a witch and as a poisonous harlot, but in her final moments, she saved the kids' lives from being killed as they would have been, and then the hairpin of love from Mau Mau saved her life. Like, would that be poetic? Yeah, it would. But on the flip side, everything she's done builds her character to be so complex and so complicated that I just feel like undoing some of that takes away from the power of this moment. It takes away from her power as a character. And I just find it like, if you're going to give your character a dramatic, cinematic death, keep them dead. Just keep them dead. Anime, learn your lessons. I've watched too many shonen that have been like, oh, you thought they were dead, but they've actually, I was like, don't bullshit me. If you're going to give somebody a cinematic death, give them a cinematic death and let them stay dead. All right? And then let it be an amazing moment. But if she just gets away in the end, and I'm sure some people will be like, but it's keeping Mau Mau's promise. I'm not a fan of it. I'm like, keep your characters dead. It's more impactful to me if you give them a cinematic send-off like they did Lolan, but then in credits next episode, she's going to be like sneaking away in the bushes. It's like, does that take away from it? A little bit. I think so. But anyway, we're not there yet. So yeah. Then we get everything about Shinmei and the whole backstory. This episode was like exposition central, right? She's like, but let's, before we fulfill your last wish, let's have some entertainment. And she goes, the story goes back more than 30 years. So yeah, so more than 30 years, that checks out in the timeline where we have the Empress Dowager, the old one. She was the one wielding the true power over the OG Emperor, which kind of has a very Shinmei and Suirei vibe, or Shinmei and Lolan. And she grew impatient with her son, who showed no interest in women. You know, can't accept the possibilities that he might not have been into women at all. So she tried to send and it seems like maybe, you could argue maybe his infatuation with younger women is just like a big complex because of that, but we've already talked about that in previous episodes. I will say this, Shisho, he looked really good when he was younger. He should have not gotten the facial hair. He looked really good without the facial hair. He looked a lot younger. He looked great. But damn, he actually liked her. He legit liked Shinmei, and she threw him away at the drop of a hat because she wanted vanity and she wanted fame and she wanted to be taken in and be the Dowager Empress. And he was like, yikes. She's like, oh, I could get pregnant in the rear palace and become the Empress. And he was like, cool. And the thing that sucks about it the most is that he never stopped loving her. As terrible as she was, he never stopped loving her. So when Lolan talks about her grandfather, which is Shinmei's dad, dying on his deathbed, he let out that you had been taken as a political hostage and that he had gave up on you. But then the unexpected happened. She's like, do you know the reason why the rear palace grew so large? So this was interesting. Shisho convinced the OG Dowager Empress to expand on it. It was a new public project, but it was to replace the slave trade. And he's like, what? The slave trade? And so she's like, Mom, you are truly ignorant. So they talk about that the grandfather, what he did to draw the attention of the Empress Regent was that slavery was legal back then, but they were treated similarly to the pleasure district courtesans. But that was not always the case for slaves sold to other nations. So the Empress banned the slave trade. Which, okay, so that was, so we're not talking about the Empress Dowager, we're talking about the Empress Regnant, which is Anshi. So Anshi had banned the slave trade. That's how this all happened. That paints a whole nother layer on when Lolan was talking about the slave trade being banned and eunuchs being banned. That adds another layer to it, because it's like, she talked so highly of it back then, but did she talk so, I guess she would have talked highly of it, because otherwise she wouldn't have existed. Lolan's entire existence is because of the expansion and because the emperor was allowed to get her mom back. The emperor was allowed to give back the mother as a gift to Shisho. So I guess that's why she would talk highly of it. Otherwise she wouldn't be in existence. So the Shi Clan, with their daughter held hostage, had no choice but to cut down on slave trading, which was the family's business. Interesting that this all comes together. When he felt like he was out of options, my father came and suggested to him that we use the rear palace as a place to send the leftover slaves. So we expand it. We make them court ladies, ladies in waiting, which is how the whole Taiho situation comes about, presumably. And then the rest of the men we make eunuchs, and then that way they don't have to leave the country. So it's interesting that Shisho and Lolan are both considered tanukis, who are tricksters, but she says it's to hide the fact that they're timid. So both Shisho and Lolan didn't want people to die, so they did these alternative measures to keep that from happening, whether it's to do that with the kids, or so we think, allegedly. We'll find out next week, I'm sure. Or if it was to get the slaves to be repositioned into the rear palace as part of this project so that they weren't traded out into other countries and treated poorly. I mean, regardless of Shisho's actions of trying to do something right, I still think he ends up being a terrible character because he gets corrupted and tries to kill Jinshi and overthrow the kingdom, that sort of thing. But I like the show paints these characters as complicated, as complex. They are not black and white, evil, villainous characters. There are shades of gray well within there, right? Which is interesting. It leads to how things are today. As an idea to get the emperor to take interest in women. Look, as someone with a lot of gay friends, I can tell you, throwing more women at them is not going to make them more interested. If you're not interested, you're not interested. It's not going to work. But that's just the theory, Do we know if the OG emperor was gay? No, we don't. Although, also, if you're interested in a certain type of person, throwing conversely to that, if he wasn't gay and just interested in little girls, which is problematic, but if you're only interested in one type of person, it doesn't matter how many types of other people you throw at them. They don't typically change. That just doesn't work. So, but as you see, as we see in the show, right? But the families who sold off their daughters would feel less guilt if their girls went to the rear palace instead of a foreign land. That was part of it. We're going to make the best out of a bad situation, right? It's a win for everyone. Well, define win. But yeah, in all honesty, it is overall. Sure. Yes. He tried to gain the trust of the Empress Regnant, and then so he could restore the status of the Shi Clan and get you released. So Shisho was doing all this because he loved Shinmei. All of it. This woman that did not love him back and was an absolute tart, And she says, you were so troublesome, mother. It would have been so much simpler if you'd escaped back then. So he created the passageway, which I love the continuity of the passageway that her dad created is what her and her sister used to go back and forth. That's amazing. And then he tried to get her to go back with him, right? We could run away together. And he's like, building a secret path is a serious crime, but I won't give up on you. We could go. Now, I will defend Shinmei for this one point. she is right to say, if I leave this rear palace, that is a serious crime and I could be killed. Just because you like me and you're not patient enough to wait for me to be released. I feel like on the one hand, before the intrusive thought brigade came through, I was kind of with Shinmei for a moment because I'm like, you're an idiot. Why didn't you just wait since you knew this was going to get the hostages released eventually? Why didn't you wait and then let me come with you? Like, let me get released, and then you wouldn't have had to build a secret passage, you wouldn't have to do something illegal, and you wouldn't have to get me involved in something illegal. Like, why would I do that? No, this is stupid. Like, I don't blame her for not going with him, because as much as Lolan makes it seem like a Romeo and Juliet beautiful romantic situation, it's an act of treason. So yeah, I could see why she would not go with that. The thing is, we can't just leave it there. If she had just, I feel like the author, if they just left it as that, it would paint Shinmei in a better light. So instead, from an author standpoint, what we do is to get rid of that by having Shinmei not go with Shisho because it's a bad idea and it's treason, but instead because her inner thoughts are telling her that her lady-in-waiting Taiho would take her place as a concubine, and she would be living in disgrace and all of that, and blah, 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 to think she entered before Lady Anshi did, and all of that, which Lady Anshi, we're getting into that business, I mean, you know. And so then she hasn't received a nightly visit even once, and then she just smacks him away and sends him off. And that paints her in a bad light yet again. You couldn't trust the man who would throw away his status just to be with you. I mean, if it hadn't been for that moment, I've been like, Lolan, they were committing treason. I don't think that would have worked out. But anyway, they don't paint it that way. And she's like, there's no way I could have trusted that fool. He took over the family immediately after my father fell ill. Now, it's just people are complex in this series. And so we have Lolan with the Phoenix hair stick, which is from the royal family. Only those who can wear this symbol alongside the Kirin, which is what Jinshi wears, carry imperial lineage. What's interesting to me in this moment is that Shinmei denied that Suirei was the emperor's granddaughter, which is interesting to me. I guess up until now she was still in denial about it. But then we have the thing where the emperor was also terrible. The OG emperor was terrible because the OG emperor trying to like pawn off, like Jinshi brings up a good point. The OG emperor pawning off his daughter rather than taking her in and owning up to his actions, which is what he should have done, instead of owning up to his actions against Taiho, because of that, against owning up to his responsibility and his actions and just saying, oh, I did this depraved thing, I'm the emperor. Instead, he pawns off his daughter to his actual daughter with Taiho to Shisho and is like, here, you can take her as a wife. I'm not releasing the woman that you love, but you can take my daughter and then this will all be hunky-dory. It put everybody in a bad position, right? So I do agree with Jinshi that the OG emperor was a bit spineless as far as that goes, right? So he says, I want you to take my daughter as your wife. And father accepted the daughter born between the emperor and your lady-in-waiting as his wife. And later a child was born between him. And the fact that the OG emperor saw Suirei is wild. Wild. Yeah, and they named her Shisui. A good name for the member of the Shi Clan. I kind of want to see what Taiho looked like now, because Suirei looks nothing like Shisho. Nothing. No face shape, no hair color, no eye color, nothing. And Taiho, blue eyes, blue hair. I mean, Taiho, that would look nothing like the emperor. So I would have liked to have seen what she looked like. Interesting. And he's like, you told me you'd grant me one wish if I did this. Now, look, Shisho is indeed a fool, because I know everything he's been doing has been for Shinmei, and that's quite romantic. Yes, indeed. But also, like, my dude, you've been backhanded and turned down by this woman because of her vanity twice now in front of us on screen. And you believe that she's gonna see you with this other woman and a baby and not think she's sloppy seconds, and that's gonna be okay? My dude. I was like, everything. I kind of feel like I don't feel bad for Shisho in the sense that I'm like, you were not seeing her at all. You were blinded by your love for this woman that you missed all the vital clues of her personality and how she would have reacted to this situation. I'm like, how do you think that would have gone over? And clearly it shows that he, you know, later on lets her bulldoze over him out of the fact that he feels guilty for taking on the daughter as his wife and having Suirei. But I'm like, my dude, Shisho's kind of an idiot. I'm like, how dare, like, none of this, it was like red flags going off. I'm like, all this sounds like a bad idea. And then they let Shinmei go, and the rest is history. And the rest is history. And I like Jinshi says the late emperor was a fool. He had no idea what effect his selfish wishes would have on his own daughter and on Shisho, and vicariously through his granddaughter as well. Like, yeah, he was an idiot. And so was Shisho. I feel bad for Suirei. I really do. Because she didn't ask for any of this. Nope, she didn't ask for any of this at all. But anyway, Shinmei gets real pissed off about all this. And Lolan is so poison in this. I love how badass she is throughout all of this. Because she knows she's going to die. She's accepted her death. She knows that she's going to die. So she's like, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory. And she asks how her father died. She's like, I know why Jinshi is here. How did he die? The worst part of it all is that she knew from the start that her dad died. That's why Jinshi had came to look for her. He'd already been found. All that. The sad part about all of it is that when Shinmei finds out, she's not sad that Shisho died. She's like, you couldn't even shed a tear for my dad? Like, my dad did all this stuff for you. He committed treason for you. He got this rear palace project expansion done for you. He, like, tried to, like, get you back. He took on the emperor's wishes so that he could get you back. Like, she's like, he did all of this for you. And you never noticed. She's like, my family is a bunch of bamboozlements. Like, just, oh. It's really sad. She's like, but once the dust settled, it was you who took control of our clan. Do you know what the clan members who suck up to you did at the palace? And she's like, oh, the embezzlement. She's like, yes, they took part in all manner of corruption. The sane ones who spoke up against it were outed, and so only the rot remained. And she saw this from the palace perspective when she was in there. So she's like, I know they've been doing all kinds of corrupt shit, knowing that it's eventually going to come back on you and my dad and our family, but you didn't. You turned a blind eye and didn't realize it. And my father took on the role of the traitor to destroy every rotten element of the Shi Clan in one explosive catastrophe. She's like, he tried to correct all the stuff you did, but she tells Jinshi, people referred to my father as a scheming tanuki, but you know tanukis are actually very timid creatures. That's why they trick others, because of survival. And the thing about it is, we can make the animal comparisons all day long. Those are animals. You're humans. And it's like, that one sentence does try to like cover all manners of sins, being like, my dad was actually a nice person. He just had to do all this. And I'm like, I do think that it's like, he did do some really shitty things they shouldn't have done. And, you know, he did try to kill Jinshi just 5 seconds ago. And yeah, it was for self-preservation, but it was still wrong. That doesn't take away from the fact that it was wrong. So, you know, what can we do? He's dead now. We won't speak ill of the dead. And Jinshi, meanwhile, Jinshi's just sitting there being like, wow, I've learned a lot today. He's like the expansion of the rear palace and the embezzlement. I should have treated them as two different issues. The expansion and the embezzlement. Shisho played the role of the necessary evil to gather all the rot in the nation in one place. And for this, he'll see no reward. She's like, did he fulfill his role as the evil mastermind? I do like that phrase a lot, because at the end of the day, I do like it's kind of a nudge to the audience of like, oh, in season 1, you thought that Suirei was this evil mastermind plotting behind the scenes, and this season kind of pulls back the curtain, and it's like, no. It feels very much like a Wizard of Oz moment where you pull back the curtain and you find out that Oz is just a guy. He's not this big, larger-than-life mastermind head. It's like, no, he's just a human. And that's kind of what happens in this moment. She's like, you thought myself and my dad and all of us were these sinister masterminds like you'd see in a cliche TV show, but no, or a story, but no, we're all human. And there's layers to what we've done and different points in time that have led us to take the actions that we've taken. And different people have been involved, like the OG Emperor, like the current Emperor, like the envoys. The envoys, as far as we know, are gone. The envoys left the building a long time ago, as far as we know. What are we going to do about the envoys? Maybe we'll find out next episode. I feel like that's something that we need to wrap up. What's going to happen with them? I don't know. But I like Lolan saying that, you know, everything is not as black and white and easy to label as the stories and as history would like to say. It's actually a lot more complicated when you think about it. And Jinshi getting mad to the point where he's bleeding is wild, where he's just like, is there any proof to all you've said that it's true? Like, I love Jinshi just being like, because Jinshi's, you know, he's realizing how complicated this all is, and he's like, shit, I should have figured like half of this out a long time ago. But it's like, is there any proof? And she says, well, the palace rot should mostly be cleaned out by now. So, who knows? Did you know for certain that this would all work out? And she's like, well, if I hadn't, we simply would have taken over the nation. We could have just simply taken over. If the nation's that weak, it doesn't deserve to exist. Oh. And Shinmei, of course, doesn't realize everything that Lolan's saying, so how that works out. When she grabbed the gun, I thought she was going to kill Lolan then and there, and I was expecting it to happen, but Lolan's like, oh, mother, you are so insignificant. Like, she is poison, and I'm like, I kind of love her as a villain. I love her as a poison honey villain, because of course Mao Mao would be attracted to her. She's poison. But, like, I love her as that, because it just makes her character that much more interesting. She has a motive. She has all this trauma, her backstory. She knows she's gonna die. So she's like, I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory, and I'm gonna tell Jinshi the full story. So he knows too now, because she's also been committed this entire series to trying to do like Anshi and better the palace from the generation before. So, I mean, it's really good what they do with her character, and it builds and builds and builds to her death, which is really beautifully handled. And if she doesn't die and ends up being like this, I don't know. I would rather her spirit linger on with Mao Mao than her be off in a foreign country somewhere, never to see Mao Mao again. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like there's no way she should have survived, but we'll see. But damn, it is cold that she just backfired that pistol and it killed her mom. That is badass and bold and insane. And he's like, so you blocked it, huh? And she's like, well, you didn't try to take it from me, so did you notice? Which is kind of like, yeah, that'll make sense. It would have been easy for you. And he's like, well, you had something you wanted to tell me, so I thought I'd just see it out. She's like, if only you were just an idiot with a pretty face. I like that Lolan saying that. She's like, damn it. She's like, Mao Mao's probably going to fall in love with you because you're not just an idiot with a pretty face. Fine. This felt personal. This moment here where she decides to tell about her mom's wishes, about her wishes. She's like, mother, father is dead. He waited for you the most. If only you had a tear to shed for him, I wouldn't have had to do any of this. I'm like, you would have probably killed her anyway. I mean, would you really have? He says, was there no other way? And she's like, perhaps there was, but we just aren't that smart. I don't know. I feel like it was more they ran out of time. I think they could have thought it through, but Shisho wanted to do everything for Shinmei, but was a loyal retainer who couldn't let go of the nation. So she's like, I have 2 favors to ask of you. And she says the first, she hands him, she's like, please take this. And when he looks at it, he seems surprised. She says, my original plan was to use it as leverage to beg for my life. But I guess that didn't work out. Written there are things that could happen to this nation from now on. Oh, so maybe, I don't know what that means, could happen from now on. I don't know if she's saying in that moment that there are things that are, I don't know if she was threatening, saying here are possible threats to your kingdom, so I'm going to give you these to bargain for my life. and then she realized that wasn't going to work, or if they were her suggestions, like here's my complaint box, manuscript for you to look at. But maybe I feel like they were threats of what could happen if they don't do anything about it. But then she says, my first wish is that clan members who can think rationally, okay, have all been ousted by my mother and lost their names. My sister's situation is similar, which makes sense. Sui Ray has been ousted from the family. She's not technically part of the Shi Clan. She has been, exiled. They've already died once, so would you consider sparing them? And that's what made me think about the kids. And I was like, ooh. He's like, I'll do what I can, which is a very vague way of saying, who knows? But, She's like, so you'll let those who have died once go. Thank you very much. I like that she doesn't consider what he says as a no. She's just like, okay, so you agree. Great. And she's like, I didn't say that, but okay. And so then her other thing was that she goes to her mother and takes off one of the two things, which now the OP makes sense where you had that. And she goes she's like, here's my other wish. And she leaves the scar on his face. Oh, and scrapes it across. Ooh, the way they animated it was, that was grisly, showing it get into the skin. She's like, okay. I mean, in that moment, she sealed her fate. There was no way they were going to let her live because she scarred the crown prince. And she doesn't know he's not the crown prince. So she's not going to live from that. Also, part of what her mother wanted was to throw down the imperial family and to get revenge on them for what they did to her mentally. So in this case, she's like, I'm scarring your face. So now that beautiful face of the OG emperor has been tainted, right? Though that's my take on it, was that she was doing that. But also, it also kind of felt a little personal. Like she was maybe digging at you're this beautiful, pretty face, and Mau Mau's probably going to end up with you, so I'm going to give you a little scar, something to remember me by. And also, if she knows that Mau Mau is going to potentially end up with Jinshi because she has to be dead, whether literally or figuratively, then she's like, I'm going to give something for Mau Mau to remember me by. She's always going to know that scar was given to you by me, because she's going to ask, and you're probably going to have to tell her one day. And she's going to know, and she's going to remember that scar and remember me. You're like, girl, devious, love it. And she's like, this is the best I can do. But really, it was to help, repay her mom, being like, I killed you, Mom, but I'm also getting, him back for you. And this is the only way I can think to do it. It was pretty grisly. Them showing the mom's body just there with her eyes open. Pretty grisly. And so then she's like, I wonder if I can be a better actor than my father. Again, that line there, be a better actor than my dad. She wanted to go out and show that she wasn't scared of getting shot and act like the evil witch of the stronghold who had plotted against the royal family and all of this. I'm like, does that acting line mean that she possibly is going to live? I just don't know how in real life, you going to tell me you're going to fall from 100 feet and not break your neck? I mean, sure. Okay. But she does this beautiful dance. She does this gorgeous dance, her dance of death. It's like the end of season 1 where Mau Mau is doing the dance of a maid being sacrificed. And the sacrifice is to wish the couple, good luck and good fortune. And it's almost like Lolan is doing this dance for Mau Mau and Jinshi, for her people, for the clan, for her sister, saying, I'm this maiden being sacrificed. It takes away from the sacrifice if she lives. And I know Mau Mau lived at the end of season 1, but that was a different circumstance. It also kind of takes away from Sui Ray's, sadness here and her emotion if she ends up living. So I don't know, maybe she doesn't end up living, but during the ED, I was like, did she die? So she's doing this dance. Boston sees the scar that's on Jinshi's cheek, and he's like, shit. And of course, Boston, they say, gets in trouble for it later, which goes back to the horse and the rat. And he's the one that shoots her. Now, multiple people went to shoot for her. There was right? Because Boston was the one, and she's doing the dance. And he fires the one. Now, was it one gun or two? Was it 1 bullet or 2? Because she's standing there laughing. That laugh when she's spinning around laughing her head off. Peak cinema. Beautiful. Because, yeah, he went there. Oh, okay, he sent multiple people. So there was like 3 people firing at her. Now, come on now. Unless they got stormtrooper aim. And there's 3 shots fired at her. And then she had like 1 at least hit her because she started to bleed. But she kept on dancing through it, which you could probably dance a little bit longer throughout that. And poor Sweet Ray. Sweet Ray's expressions were amazing in this point. Like her expressions were so good, so freaking good. But where Boston ends up shooting her the second time as she's dancing, he shot her like, and she's like, should I have stopped her? I couldn't have. The final performance of a once-in-a-generation evil. There was no way I could ruin it. Nor could I avert my gaze from it. In that moment, both Jinshi and Mao Mao, they both fell for Lolan. Yeah, I love the shot with the mountains overhead and the lights. Oh, see the moment where they hold up the guns and it fires at her. Oh, and Sweet Ray crying. Oh, I love that shot of Sweet Ray with the tears and it cuts to Jinshi with the scar. Oh, knowing that they're cousins, watching this. And technically by marriage, Lolan's related to Jinshi too. It's so good. It's so good. And then, yeah. So then, okay, it shows the fabric and the bullet going in. And that's when she, like, goes back. But, like, I kept wondering about, she goes backwards. So I'm like, did she get shot? She looks like she's in pain. Was she acting? Did the little tiny hairpin prevent the bullet from going into her? I don't know, unless it hit like the edge of it, unless it hit the flat part of it, maybe. If the hairpin is found with an indent from the bullet, then we'll know. But she smiles as she falls back, and Sweet Ray reaches for her and just falls short. Poor Sweet Ray. Now, you could say that the snow broke her fall or something like that, but Jinshi says that was the last I ever saw of Lolan. So, regardless of if she lives or dies, which no body, no death. So, regardless if she lives or dies, she's not going to be part of the story anymore. I just feel like it would be interesting if the one guy stumbles across Lolan's body and finds the hairpin and takes it to take back to the palace or to send back to the palace. It would be interesting if that were the case, but I don't know if we're going to find a body with it. So they end up wrapping his head around. They couldn't just put a little bandage. They got to do like a full head wrap. And Jinshi's like, I haven't slept the past few days. It'd be nice if I could just sleep next to Mao Mao. And so then, yeah, there's the kids, the bodies of the dead children of the Shi Clan. And he's like, she begged me to allow her and I couldn't refuse. Gao Shun's a big softie. Gao Shun's a big softie. She's a mess, as are you, sir. And so the cut on his face would cause his subordinate to get punished. Poor Boston. Poor Boston. That sucks. Boston's like, did I really just get smacked up because you wanted to uphold this woman's last wishes? And he's like, yeah, kind of sorry. But yeah, he's like, don't worry about me. We should be glad that Locken's not here, right? And they're like, yes, indeed. Poor Locken threw out his back. Poor Lohan has to take care of him. Oh my god. But yeah, so he crouches down beside her. And when he goes to, if I wasn't here, she wouldn't have had to go through this. Now he notices that there's a bruise or some purple there. So I'm curious what he's going to do about that. If there was a bruise or what that is. Because she wakes up right around that time. Is that where she got smacked? Is that where she had gotten smacked before? I know she got hit by Shinmei. Did she get smacked there before? I don't remember. And she's like, what are you doing, Jinshi? And then he's like, oh shit. And they weren't just gonna let us find out. So yeah, and in the bushes, it looks like there's a little gleaming silver. Now, it looks like there's a little silver there. Is that the hairpin that gets left behind. If there's a bullet dent in it, then we'll know that Lolan might have escaped and lived through it, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm very torn. I'm very torn. On the one hand, if the kids live, yay! If Lolan lives to go live off by herself somewhere else, yay! But then on the other hand, I'm like, does it take a little bit away from the meaning of their passing and the darkness and stuff that was enriched in the series that made it a little bit edgy? Yeah! So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Kind of torn, but I guess we'll find out next week if that's the case or not, or if they're going to suspend us in mystery forever. I don't know. Or at least until seasons later, which I hope they do seasons after this. They better do a season 3. They need to. What are you doing, series? Get season 3 greenlit. Let's go. So, I will be back next week with episode 24, which is very exciting. And then I will be reacting to the Chibi series. It may just take a few extra weeks after that, but I'm planning on it happening. But what an episode. Wild times, y'all. Wild times. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of the Apothecary Diaries season finale, y'all. Woo woo.